This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Hawkesley. Welcome to the show. Hello and welcome to the show. I am excited about my guest today. She's someone I have huge respect for and that I have known in the profession for many years. She's the UK Managing Director of Progeny, the independent financial planning, investing, investment management, and tax services firm. Caroline Hawkesley is my guest today. Caroline, welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. I feel like I'm amongst royalty today. So privileged indeed, privileged.
You are very kind. I have watched your rise and rise and rise within this giant profession of ours, right from the day that you used to work within a much smaller financial planning business. So
yes,
yeah, great to have you on the show.
Great, thank you very much. I was going to ask you a question actually, because you referred to profession earlier. At what point does everybody start calling the industry the profession? We've still got a way to go, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there is an industry. So when I say industry, like there is the giant big industry around the profession, the platform, the investment management, the providers. And then, of course, there is the profession of financial advice. But I get your point. It's something we all need to get better at defining, I suppose.
We do. Definitely we do.
Good stuff. Caroline, for the purpose of our audience, let's get this party started. Tell us a little bit about your journey in financial services, where you started, how the journey began, and where you are today at Progeny.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you. I think like most people, I arrived in financial services by accident, and that it kind of it frustrates me in terms of our next generation and what we need to do to avoid, the future landing into this profession as an accident. But going back, that's what happened with me. So I saw an opportunity. It was with direct sales, and as part of that, taking FPC 1, 2, and 3 for those that remember the old money. Yeah. But there was something in it that really appealed and interested me, and sort of, it got the hook, if you like. And so once I sort of landed, I realized that it was where I wanted to be. I thought, probably like most individuals when they do land in financial services, that I wanted to be a financial planner. And actually, through various opportunities with some amazing businesses, I did become a financial planner. I think the underlying theme really is making a difference. And it's a huge privilege to work with clients, right? I did some fantastic work with George Kinder along the way. So that's when you can really start to, put in some of the life planning experience to help clients achieve the things that are really important to them, and to try and deliver, peace of mind. So that's always been a passion. But actually getting the ability to be part of setting up a true financial planning business back in the early 2000s, that made me think about the other opportunities within financial services. And as part of that, I realized that, I quite enjoy running a business and supporting teams and building out infrastructure and, dare I say, compliance. So I started to take a bit of a different viewpoint. And it made me realize that there are lots of different opportunities within financial services. So it's not just that traditional route. So I did advise clients for quite a long time, but I realized that I wanted to actually be more involved in the running of the business, but still staying within financial services. I guess fast forward, that's where I got to with the previous business, Evolve Financial Planning. We at that point, it was a fantastic business, kind of grown from a blank sheet of paper and lots of exciting ideas and innovation. And we're at that point, we're looking at, do we grow by acquisition? What's the next stage of our journey? And actually, that's when Progeny came knocking. And for me, the due diligence on my side had been done because a number of business owners, kind of MDs and chairmans of these previous businesses that were in my network had already joined Progeny. And so that was a big tick to me to say, well, hold on, we're onto something here. So that opportunity came up in 2018. And at that point, I was invited to be the operations director for the wider business. I was still advising at that point as well, because I do think it was important to, sort of keep your hand in to know when you're putting a process in place or you're building out teams and structures, what does it feel like to that end client? Very passionate about that. And actually, if you're on the receiving end, you get to, to experience all the things that you're putting into place as well. So I guess, my journey's grown since then. Progeny, I'm sure we'll come on to later, has grown and changed a lot since 2018. I've been part of the growth strategy, taken on a couple of different roles, moving into Chief Operations Officer, and then more recently UKMD, which is a huge privilege, and a huge responsibility at the same time. So bit of a long-winded answer, but hopefully that gives a bit of background as to how I got into financial services and where I've got to today.
No, it's fantastic. It's an incredible journey of in effect being part of a small independent financial planning firm based in Croydon and London. I understand, and then of course you became part of the firm became part of Progeny, and you went along with that journey. Now, the thing that amazes me is how Progeny is, when Evolve was, joined Progeny in 2018, you said, this
Yes.
was Progeny at the time was $1 billion in AUM. With 58 staff members. Today, you're 10 times that, at least from a AUM point of view. I don't know how many staff are in the business, but tell us a little bit, give us a good sense of what Progeny is today as a business.
So the concept and the purpose of the business has never changed, and that is quite simply having the client at the heart of what you do, and having all professional advisors under one roof in one ecosystem, all putting the client at the heart and having a linked, joined up proposition that really can support a client regardless of the phase of life or money in motion event that they're going through. That's always been the purpose, and it is phenomenal in terms of the benefits that it brings and the peace of mind that it brings to clients as well. Now, in order to deliver that proposition in a regional on a regional basis, you have to grow to be able to support the proposition, and that's really what we've been busy doing throughout the last 5, 6, 7 years. So as you alluded to at the start, we had the wealth business, we had the asset management business, and we had the legal business, both corporate and private client at that point. later on in the journey, we added the tax proposition as well. So we've been working hard to build out the regional presence to support the clients regionally with the proposition, but also to improve the proposition, whether that's enhancements to it or investment in the business along the way to drive betterment. Because I think, again, when you think about what Progeny is, so we have that, having all of your advisors in one room, but let's not forget we have to constantly also challenge ourselves, whether it's horizon scanning, whether it's, betterment, and that might be through technology, it might be through, gaining B Corp, or there's a whole list of things, but we are passionate about doing things right, doing things intentionally, while still growing out the proposition. And that equals, a challenging time sometimes. Don't get me wrong, it certainly isn't easy. But I think when you step back and look at it, that's the thing that drives me on. It gives me the energy because it's pretty impressive, and it makes you proud to be a part of it, even though there's still lots to do. If we can make a difference, and if we can help support industry into profession, if we can help support bringing the next generation through and training them and giving them the support to then, take over the reins when the likes of me with the grey hair, needs to step back.
A spring chicken.
Well, thank you. Yes, thank you. It's the big 5-0 this year, so I don't know how springy the chicken is, but there you go. Conversation for another day.
So you're 35?
Yeah. But it's as you can probably tell, I get really, really excited and very passionate about this because it's not just about acquiring businesses. It's not just about growing organically. Yes, we can do those things, but we can do it with purpose and intention and really try to make a difference along the way. And so when you look at the teams that we have within the business, whether it's the management board, our senior leadership team, or, the wider teams, everybody cares, and we're very passionate about what we do and how we do it. And we've got responsibilities, right? We've all got responsibilities, whether it's as a business owner or in terms of what else needs to change within financial services. So let's not forget that.
Thank you for that. So let me help us understand the business on ground and maybe give us some metrics just to understand this. So obviously you have the group company and CEO, and then of course you are UK Managing Director, and there are regional hubs. Is that how you think about this? So regional firms. We'll come to some of the recent acquisitions in a sense.
Sure,
so you have
sure.
the regional hubs, and there are how many financial planners, and how does the business sit on ground today?
So we have, if you think about it, we have group services. So our group services are there to support the group, as the name suggests. So we have, an amazing people team. We have a technology and IT team. We have a risk and compliance team. We have a finance team, et cetera, et cetera. So we've built out the foundations of the infrastructure that's required to support a business of our size today and one that's growing, for the future. You then have 3 regulated entities. So you have your wealth, your financial planning entity. You have your asset management entity, and the wealth business is independent from the asset management business, as you'd probably expect. And then you have legal and you have tax. So from a client's perspective, it's pulling all those regulated entities together to develop on the proposition. In terms of the wealth side of the business, if we just think about that for one moment, that's split out regionally. So we have a Scottish region, we have a North region, a Midlands region, and a South region. And our acquisition strategy has allowed us to build out those regions. We have some phenomenal people, as you'd imagine, that support the regions or operate within the regions. And the regions are typically made up of your financial planners, your associate financial planners, so the next generation coming through, para planners, and a mixture of support teams. So you have client executives, you have administrators, and client PAs. So client PAs are there to enhance the journey for the clients. And the group services will support, in all sorts of ways with regards to, what's needed at the time. And then within the law and tax side of the business, what we're looking to do at the moment is grow that area out so that supports the regions. So up until recently, that's predominantly based in our Leeds office. With the acquisition of the Fry Group, more recently, it's allowed us to start opening up and starting to build that regional infrastructure to support the regional financial planning areas. So that's kind of where we are today. Does that answer the question?
Yes, that makes sense. Thank you for that. If I was looking for a legal service, for instance, so when you think about how the clients come into the group, is the idea that client can come in looking for legal and tax services, and they may end up also having our wealth services? Or is it that actually we lead with wealth and legal and tax planning is essentially something that we offer as part of that comprehensive service for clients?
Actually both doors are open.
Right.
So, if a client reached out and initially wanted legal services, whether they're selling a business or they need the corporate team or, whatever it might be, as part of the proposition, we would kind of open that out to say, have you thought about, getting a portfolio reviewed, or have you got your financial planning covered, or, whatever it might be. By definition, because of the size of the business, wealth is the biggest entity as it stands today. Yeah. And therefore you will typically find that kind of value creation, if you like, comes from wealth through into the other services and the other proposition. But the door is open on the other side. The acquisitions, the reason the wealth business is bigger is because we have grown by acquisition more on the wealth side than we have currently on the legal and tax side. So that's where you'll just naturally see that flow of clients coming through from. And it's, as part of that, it's trying to, I guess, educate clients that whenever they're thinking about a money in motion event, the earlier you start planning and the earlier that you start getting the right experts in the room, the better. I always link it to, I don't know whether it's a good analogy or not, but you go and see your GP, and then, if you've got something wrong with your heart, they'll bring in the heart consultant. And if you've got a broken leg, they'll bring in the surgeon. And it's that kind of, so you can say, okay, we're all working for that one individual, but let's get ahead of any planning that's needed. Let's make sure it's cohesive. And that, we're picking things up and thinking about them early enough. So that's always a good message, I think, with anything for clients. It's, if you're thinking about doing something, start talking about it as soon as you can and start getting the right people in the room as early as possible.
Let's talk about the acquisitions then. In the early days, Progeny acquired some of the smaller firms, some of the brilliant firms that I know, including obviously Evolve, Juno Wealth, Adidi, some of the fantastic firms out there.
Absolutely.
And then I see your ticket size is just kind of gone up and up. The quality remains strong. You've just acquired Carbon in Scotland, a brilliant firm, Fiscal
Amazing
Engineer, again, another fantastic planning firm. what's the strategy here? What's changed in the way that you do these acquisitions?
What's changed? How long have we got?
Yeah, sure. You got all day. I'm keen to learn about this. Yeah.
So it's absolutely fascinating. I think the first thing when you think about an acquisition, you have to be, very respectful in terms of what it is that you're actually doing, because you are changing something by the nature of acquiring it. And, ultimately, clients aren't necessarily always asking for change when that event goes through. So you have to, as I say, be very respectful of what you do and how you do it. We are now in a position where, we have some phenomenal businesses that recognize what it is that we are trying to do, recognize that we are not a traditional consolidator, and actually want to be a part of helping to change, helping to grow out, and see that sometimes it's easier to do that as a bigger organization versus those smaller businesses. So the quality of the businesses that we have acquired and that we'll continue to talk to kind of blows me away. It's really impressive, and to get to start to work more closely with some of these previous business owners, again, for me it helps drive betterment, because one thing we've always been very clear about is that when we acquire a business, we over time move to one way of operating. So it's the Progeny way. Now that doesn't mean it's our way or
the highway.
No way at all. What it means is we try to work with each business that we acquire to take, the bits that makes them special and try and continuously remold Progeny on that basis. So we're very open to feedback. Not always possible to do everything that everybody wants you to do, but we would be mad to buy great businesses and then ignore all the great things that they do. So, that makes the integration harder to some degree, because you might be trying to change the wider business as part of integrating a smaller business. But we've always been very clear that, if you like, there's one operating model. So if anybody's thinking about, coming to Progeny, but really doesn't want to change anything about their business, then they shouldn't be thinking about, joining us. So, as I say, we've always been very clear that that's the model that we follow. And it means that we can build out a business with the right infrastructure, with the right governance, and with the right controls around them. And I don't think that will ever change, actually, because I truly think that sets you apart from the rest. Where we are today, I guess, 5 or 6 years of acquisitions, 22 acquisitions. You've got a lot of lessons learned in there. And we always do take the time to look at what those lessons are and what we need to do different or better kind of next time around. I think where we are at the moment, we are looking at, what locations make sense, what are propositional enhancements, and also just really having the ability to acquire the likes of Carbon or the Fiscals. It'd be a great question to ask Shane from Fiscal. Would he have necessarily joined Progeny 5 years ago? Maybe not, but actually it's right, having that track record, isn't it? Of we really do mean what we say in terms of what we're trying to create here. So come on, guys, help us do it. Let's come together and we can hopefully, drive some transformation through the industry as part of that. So I think that's probably where we've got to up until this point. And one thing I will say is it's very difficult integrating businesses, and the reason it's difficult is because it's change, and as we know, human beings don't always like change.
Indeed.
Yeah. And I guess if you were No, it's all right.
Sorry,
You carry
carry
on.
on.
I was just going to say, so to put it into, if I sort of turn that question back, think if you, obviously you've built up a amazing sort of ecosystem of businesses, and you have a very clear viewpoint on what you want those to be. And if somebody else came in and started to say, actually, Abraham, that picture behind the wall, we're taking it down, we don't like it anymore, and you can't sit there, and it's hard, right? It's hard for people. We do have to acknowledge that.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I respect people who say it's not necessarily my way or the highway, right?
Yeah.
But for me, it is my way or the highway.
Then you can never sell your business then.
Well, I mean, yeah, well, when I mean, again, it comes down to what sale mean of a business.
It does, yeah.
We have an aspiration for timeline to exist beyond my time, right? To persist beyond my time, going forward. And there are several different ways that you exit a business. There's public market. I say to people, like our next best competitor is in the public market, and so therefore I don't see that as being unachievable for us as a business. There is the handing it over to the next generation of leaders and management to carry on, of course. But my point is, like, as long as I am still here,
yeah, absolutely.
what somebody else do with, when they take over the reins, a completely different matter. But the thing that always, and I don't think that my views and my concerns about consolidators are eating. I have been pretty open about those concerns. Progeny is clearly doing things different that we see in the market, and as you said, as you allude to, that's the only reason you can attract some of these best and the brightest in the business. Shane, and the guys over at Carbon, they are the best that this profession has got. They are that good. But I can't, when I think about just the general trend of consolidation in the marketplace, and I look at the history of it, and just to brag a little bit, I have been tracking this for a while. I remember interviewing the legendary Succession founder about this, and like 10 years later, we can see where that business is. I guess what I am getting at is, to your mind, what makes this different? What is it about the strategy that you believe is different than the things that we're seeing in the marketplace?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and actually, I am keen to get your views on this as well. But I can obviously talk from our own experience. So it goes back to the start, and we have always been very intentional. And the next time you speak to Neil, you will always hear the message about the passion about what we're trying to create. And the fact is, you need to acquire, and we've often talked about you acquire to hire, because some of these people forget trying to employ them. They own their own businesses already. Right. So the only way you can employ them is to bring them into the ecosystem. So we've always been very clear about what that proposition is, and the fact that we have to grow inorganically in order to deliver it. And we needed and continue to want to bring additional investment into the business to allow the growth strategy or to allow the infrastructure investment that we've made, in the tech team or whatever it might be. And I do think, maybe naively, but I do think that that's important because you have a leadership team, a management board that are true to what they set out to build. And they are getting on with building that, and creating something that can be passed on to the next generation and that can really make a difference. So, you then have to think about how do you get the capital that you need. And obviously we've been on a bit of a journey with that, and we recognize that we needed to bring in some external capital. We went through, I don't know how many businesses Neil went through the dating phase. I think it was probably 20 plus. Again, good conversation for him at another point. But, there were a lot of people that we spoke to that we just knew straight away, it's just a no. It's a bit like when a client comes along and starts to talk to you for the first time. You don't have much to measure on, do you? You've got to, some of it's the trust. Can you work with these people, etc. So we started with a big list, and it came down to a few. It was great because as part of that process, the management board got to meet a couple of the teams that were keen to invest in Progeny. And it was clear that they were keen to also invest in the team. It was clear with FG that they bought into the proposition, that they could see the opportunity, because obviously that's what they are looking for. But it was important to us that we were able to continue with our journey. And it's like anything, until you get married, you don't truly know what it's going to be like. But up until this point, it has worked really, really well for us, because we have been able to continue with the journey, continue to be intentional with it, and to continue to grow and invest in the business in the way that we feel, passionate about doing. I don't know how other businesses, when they're going out to look for investment, how they look at it or what they're looking for. And I'm sure it'll be different for different people. But that's been our journey up until to this point, and it has worked very well. I think what I don't know is, outside of Progeny, almost what happens next. Do the big businesses start to be brought together? Do the funds get consolidated? What do we see happening next? Because everything's a cycle, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's so fascinating to watch, right? And it's great to see flow of capital into wealth management. The wealth management ecosystem. Some of that capital is coming from private equity, and you actually have a far better record than I did raising capital from venture. So venture capital, people confuse these things, right? They're very different. Venture capital backing, transformation, innovative technology type business, versus private equity coming in to back establish profitable strategy is completely different. But either way, it's great to see capital coming into the sector. We went through an iteration of financial planning. So I call them the pioneers. The first generation, call it, of financial planners who built firms of their own backs. And those businesses today are now, like formidable. They go from anything from a small firm with 100 million to, your even Paradigm Norton or Carbon, with say $1 billion. I'm approximating. And so those guys, in my mind, are now at the point, they have been at the point where, whether you like it or not, they need to capitalize on their life's work, right?
Yes.
And
Yes.
what Progeny has done is created a framework as well as others, to enable them to capitalize on their life work, and that has, has its strengths, and I am watching this space to see how it goes. We can look at the US. There are lessons that, I always think, if I want to think what's happening in the UK market, so what would happen in the UK market in 5 years' time? How should I guess? I look at what's going on in the US, and
Absolutely.
basically the amount of secular move that goes on is amazing. So you see private equity backed entities, they buy out firms, they do a pretty decent job integrating them, and then you see it on the other end. Some of those firms go off to do some of those guys, maybe even the younger generation, go off to do their own. I saw some stats that basically say in the US, that say something along the lines of, for every 3 RIAs, they call them registered independent advisors in the US,
Yeah.
for every 3 RIAs that are acquired, there is 4 new ones being created. And so you go through this life cycle, and it doesn't mean that value is necessarily not being created in the acquisition. It definitely is, but you see either the next generation going off to strike on their own, and that's great. So it's fascinating to watch all of that happening.
Yeah, it really is. And I guess you've got to look at why does that happen? And is it just it's just the natural cycle, and you just kind of you repeat that? Is it that the environments that individuals land in isn't right
Yeah.
for whatever reason? And a lot of that can be subjective, and that's absolutely fine. Is it that a lot of people that come into a business by way of an acquisition are naturally entrepreneurial?
Huh.
Does that get squashed along the way, and they're not they don't have the ability to continue with the entrepreneurial flair that gives them the purpose? It's trying to break it all down, isn't it? Is it control? Is it change? It'll be a whole host of things, I'm sure. And for us, we have to work hard to make it a place that people want to be, a place that they feel that they can continue to be entrepreneurial, have input, understand the why, understand what we're creating together, all of those things. But I don't know whether there's data coming out of the US that kind of highlights, okay, they're your stats, but do we have the next level of detail to drive why that might be happening? I'd love to see that, actually.
So will I, Caroline. So will I.
If you can get back to me on that one.
Yeah, I'll get to it. No, look, it's been fun having this conversation. Let's talk about some of the interesting things that I see you guys, great things that I see you guys get up to. You know, the Progeny Academy, bringing new advisors into the market. If you can talk a little bit about that, and then of course maybe we talk about what's going on international,
Yes,
as well.
love to talk about love to talk about international. I was out in Singapore a few weeks ago, and it was just an amazing. I was only there for 4 nights. It was an amazing 4 nights, and appreciating the culture, etc. So we can definitely talk about that. So the academy, again, it's always been one of those things that we've really been passionate about. It's recognizing we've got to get the next generation of really great financial planners coming through. As the mother of a 19-year-old, where we've been talking about what else exists outside of university, it really hits home that financial services, and going back to the start, whether it's becoming a financial planner or all the other opportunities, it does not come across the desks of these children, when they're at school, or even when they're at sixth form, or even, at the point of university. Why? Why is that? And actually you build on that. Why is it that we're not even teaching kids about the basics of budgeting and dealing with money? Because there's a certainty in life that everybody will have to do that in some way, shape or form. So, how do we promote the opportunities at the right time, at the earliest opportunity? And that's kind of outward looking. So for us, we've done some summer schools and we'll continue to do things like that. Regardless of whether individuals come back into the progeny ecosystem, it's more about, we've just highlighted another opportunity for it might only be a team of 10 people, but if 3 of them go on to have a career, wherever that is, then we've made a difference. And then when you look inward, it was, how can we take, I guess, the control and make some positive change and give our next generation an opportunity so that they are, the planners of tomorrow, that they have the opportunity to grow and learn in an environment that pushes them, because I think that's important, raises the bar in terms of client outcomes, etc., but almost gives that well-rounded approach. So, I know from my days of studying lots of for lots of the exams, you can learn a lot from taking those exams, but having a conversation like this, or being able to talk to another human being about a really important life event, you can't learn that from a textbook. And so, when we were started to think about developing out the academy, which is, I think, nearly 6 years ago, it was thinking about all of those things. So there's a selfish element. Progeny wants to grow our own next generation internally, but actually it's giving people a springboard into what can be a really phenomenal career opportunity. Then you think about, bringing females into financial services, bringing females in to become financial planners, as an example. And again, you start to make a difference. I mean, our academy as it stands in the wealth business, it's a 3-year program. You expect chartered financial planners popping out at the end of the 3 years. You give a wide range of experience. You give them exposure to some of our most phenomenal, mentors and financial planners that we do have in this business. But also we are expanding it out so that we've had our first, I think it was either 2 or 3 individuals from legal join the academy. So there's lots of different layers to what it is today versus what we initially thought it might be. And we want to kind of grow it out more so that it's giving the opportunity not just to springboard financial planners or lawyers, but actually, your investment managers, or maybe your next generation of compliance specialists. So we've got a lot to do to build on that. But where we are today, it's a 3-year program. We appointed a lady called Heather Ross to head of academy a couple of years ago. She joined us by acquisition. That's classic, acquire to hire. And it's phenomenal. It's a proud moment when you kind of see these individuals coming out the other side of the academy. For me, from the kind of ex-Evolve team, there were a couple of people that I recruited back in the Evolve days that have now come out the other side and are really amazing financial planners. And it's, as I say, that's kind of a proud moment. But we've got a long way to go to get financial services in front of some of these, the younger generation earlier, to get them thinking about opportunities, in my view.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's almost inevitable, really, if you, as you said, we want to grow the next generation of planning and you want to scale firms. So the way I think about this is that basically in the early days, in your days, right?
The
And
olden days.
well, but like I'm thinking when you came into become a financial planner, and many other people will say that when I came in to financial advice, it was essentially a sales driven environment,
Sure.
and the only people who survived were people who could do sales as well as the ongoing client servicing and all that. So then the result is we saw a proliferation in a good way of the entrepreneurial spirit in advice, right? Because if
Mm.
you could find the client and you could serve them, then maybe you don't really want or need somebody to boss you around, right? So then what happened is you, others, you go off and you create your own thing, your own small little firm. My clients are listening to this, they're horrified. But my point is you create your own thing and it's beautiful and you love it, right? And so then, but then we create a problem in the sense that if we persist and we continue with that, essentially we're going to get to a point where people come into business and they only survive if they were really good or decent salespeople, and the others will not. Maybe they will leave the profession, maybe they will
Mm.
stay as power planning and administrator or whatever, which there's nothing wrong with. Some will do that, but we never end up building career advisors who came into the profession wanting to be financial planner, financial advisors. They don't necessarily want to or need to be entrepreneurial and salesy. Sorry, my friend Brett Davison's been talking a lot about how do we bring servicing advisors, he calls
Yeah.
them. And there's this talk in the US that the first generation of advisors came in as salespeople and they became advisors. Now we're bringing in, with what you're doing and others, I'm sure, we're bringing in people who actually came out of college or uni uh, wanting to pursue advice as a career, and there's a whole lot of work to be done to get there. I'm sure.
Yeah, there is. And I think also, you know, when you talk about sales, is that a dirty word or
Oh no,
not?
absolutely
Because
no.
yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it is. And actually it's about, the spotting the opportunities as well, which is the, enhancing the service for the clients, isn't it? But I also think it's good life experience. So you go back to that kind of first generation who learn how to network and learn how to mix with people and work opportunities. I think that's a phenomenal lesson. And
Mm-hmm.
regardless of whether somebody comes in and is going to be a planner that's kind of nurturing the existing relationships rather than needing to think about new ones, you should have that experience. It's like, if you give your kids everything, they don't know what it's like to go through the experience of the paper round or whatever to get, a couple of quid. And I genuinely think that you've got to build that experience and that kind of feeling. It's all the life skills that you've got to make sure that create that well-rounded individual.
Yeah, absolutely. My kids still think they not think they they think of me as a salesperson. They say, "Dad, you're on your phone all day, every day, speaking to people." Like, yes, good stuff. Let's talk about the international. You're talking about Singapore. So you were
Yes,
saying earlier that your international business came out of the acquisition of Fry Group, and they
it
have
did.
Singapore and all that. Let's dive into that side of things. What are you doing and seeing in the international world?
Yes, very exciting. Okay, so we've talked a lot about, Progeny's intention and what we're here to create, and that concept of having all of your advisors in one room. Part of the vision actually was to build on that, but actually take it to a global level.
Right.
So, thinking about that, creating a global financial planning business for UK citizens, and getting the ability to almost expand into Europe, Middle East, Asia, or whatever. Actually, before lockdown, we'd started to explore Australia, and recognized that there was opportunity there. What was happening in financial services was and is was interesting, but kind of lockdown prevented us or actually Neil from getting on planes. So it kind of slowed down. But with the acquisition of the Fry Group, that kind of brought to the door a European office, an office in Dubai, an office in Hong Kong, Honkers as they call it, and in Singapore. So I went out a couple of weeks ago, had the opportunity to meet clients, which was just phenomenal. And what you start to learn, really being respectful of the culture, and you start to learn this whole new world of expats and why people end up, in the places that they do. And a lot of the time it's linked to work and, going out for a couple of years and 2 years becoming 17 years, et cetera, et cetera. It's fascinating. And there's a lot of opportunity there. But for us, it comes back to if a client is moving about because of a job or a life event or whatever else, it's a big deal moving from one country to another, isn't it? Even outside of just thinking about your finances, thinking about where your kids are going to go to school or how you're going to find a home. And okay, a lot of employers offer kind of concierge packages, but actually less so than they used to do. So we're looking at that at the moment just to say, how can we support, today UK citizens that are currently already in the Progeny ecosystem, or for those that aren't but need that more of a hand-holding service. So, if you, in the example and thinking about some of the clients in Singapore, it's if we're offering a proposition that is similar in terms of standards, regardless of where the client is. And that's kind of, your first thing to consider when you think about some of the organizations and how they do operate in some of these other territories. We don't want to do that. So it's how we, create an aligned proposition and how we work with clients early on in their journey again. So if they're thinking about coming back to the UK or, coming back via a sunny climate for a few years, you want the support system, the team, the planner in that region, preparing that, well in advance of it happening. You also want the planner, the pod, the professional advisors where they're landing, starting to come together early. You're creating a kind of a global financial plan at that point. You're bringing in cash flow planning, and you're thinking about, covering all bases really, so that they don't just land back in the UK or land overseas and then have to start from scratch. So it's trying to that seamless experience, and also moving to a team that they've already started to interact with as part of a handover period. There's a lot for people to worry about as they move around. If we can take some of that worry away, nurture the relationships, build on the trust, then it's kind of, building out a global mobility program. That's what we're looking to do. And the Fry acquisition has allowed us to enhance that proposition. So it really is exciting. As I've already said, there is a lot of opportunity there. It also offers team members opportunities that we couldn't offer before. So we've had one person up until this point, one of our UK planners moved to Dubai. We want our own internal mobility program. So my goodness, I actually said to my 19-year-old when I got back from Singapore, you need to go to Singapore and live out there for a little while, which was quite shocked by that statement. But, we can now say to, let's say one of our paraplanners or one of our administrators in the wealth business, look, do you want a secondment? If you want to go and work in that team for a year and have an amazing time in Singapore, then we can make that happen. Yes, there's some planning. We've obviously got to make sure that it works across the business, but we were never able to offer that opportunity before. So I think thinking about our kind of next generation, that's another thing that we can really start to build out to support them. So yeah, there's lots of opportunity there, but it is about creating that mobility program for the client so that they can move around, having peace of mind that everything is taken care of and that the advice journey is joined up. That's key, isn't it? Always.
It's exciting to see, what you guys get up to internationally, and to see this very deep thinking about not just joined up for, a joined up service for clients across legal, tax, and wealth management, but also thinking about people who are moving, right? And
Yeah.
it's exciting. Just to then start to wrap this up, I wonder if you want to reflect on your own journey, on your own career, in terms of, like, you spent best part of 2 decades working financial advice, mostly as part of smaller independent firms, and then you were acquired, and then 6 years later you're running a UK wealth management part of now an organization that is getting bigger and bigger, and going international. You are in effect a corporate executive. How do you think about that transition from a humble financial advisor
Yeah.
to a corporate exec, to the C-suite? How do you reflect on success and achievement and all that stuff?
Well, I've got quite a few grey hairs. I don't know whether that's.
I can't see any. I can't see any.
It's a good camera angle. I am truly passionate about making a difference, and honestly, I don't just say that because it might sound like a great thing to say. That's the thing that drives me. That's the thing that kind of gets me up in the morning, and I like to be inspired, because if I'm not inspired, I get bored quite quickly. For me, it's always about the people that you've got around you. The people that challenge you, the people that inspire you, the people that give you the opportunity. I feel that I've had a lot of opportunity along the way, but I don't think that that's luck. I think, you do create your own opportunity. You have to work hard, I think. But when you're doing something that you truly care about and you're passionate about, you don't necessarily think about, it's hard work, because I always think back to kind of, George Kinder, and it's like you've got that fire in your belly, and that's the thing that keeps you going. And I honestly think that that's what has inspired me through from when I was kind of early 20s to where I am now. I've always seen the opportunity. I've always seen the way to do more or the way to do better. Getting the opportunity to be part of growing a financial planning business with Evolve was phenomenal. Getting the opportunity to then take that to the next level with Progeny, again, it's like, my goodness, how much have I learned over the last 6 years, and how can I then take that and pass some of that knowledge on to give other people opportunity. So there's a couple of people here in Progeny that I drop a message to every now and again and say, when are you chomping at my heels? Are you ready? Are you going to be the next UKMD? I want to see that. That's the bit that really inspires me. And if I can make a difference, then, I feel that that's my kind of measure of success. And I genuinely don't want that to sound like it's a bit of a cheesy response, but that is the thing that, that drives me. And people get you through the tough days, right? We all have tough days. We have challenges that we have to overcome. It's about the team around you. And sometimes, you can start a morning thinking, oh my goodness, you have a few meetings with some amazing team members and you think, yeah, we've got this and we're on track, and let's go and do what we're good at doing. So yeah, I've said a lot there. I don't know whether that answers the question, but I also feel like there's still a lot to do. And I am keen to learn every day. I certainly don't know everything yet, and getting the opportunity to talk to people like yourself and, other amazing people in the network, again, it continues to kind of inspire and think, oh yeah, actually, we could make a difference over here, or we could change something, over there. So yeah, we're in interesting times, and I feel very happy to be a part of that.
Fascinating stuff. Caroline Hawkesley, thank you very much for your time, for your wisdom.
Thank you.
It's been amazing to watch you and your journey, and to have this conversation. And there is still more to come, I'm sure. So I will be watching and hailing you on. Is that the word? I'm looking for the word. Cheering you on. Thank you.
That's brilliant. I really, really appreciate this opportunity, and would be very happy to come back if you ever wanted me to talk about anything else with you guys.
Yeah, let's do it again, no doubt. Absolutely. That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.